because everyone's running for president, it seems. So many candidates already either in now or planning to be in. Neil Levesque, he's one of those guys up in New Hampshire where if you want to win a nomination, you better get to be friends with Neil Levesque. Thanks for joining us, sir.
Thank you, Larry.
Executive Director of the New Hampshire Institute of Politics and a Political Library at St. Anselm College. And you also hold a breakfast event. What's it called, Politics and Eggs or something like that?
It's called Politics and Eggs, and I think so far in the last 2 months we've had just about every candidate.
Well, we saw yesterday Rand Paul throw his head into the ring, and the Paul name is not too unfamiliar to the people of New Hampshire since Ron Paul, the father, has been running up there, well, several times, I think, over the last couple of decades. What do you think of how Rand Paul made his announcement yesterday and what his prospects might be in New Hampshire?
Well, it's very interesting. As you mentioned, New Hampshire has a libertarian streak. Our motto is live free or die. It was picked as the free state, if you will, and there's a free state project. Ron Paul got 24% in the last presidential primary. So basically he got 1 out of every 4 voters. Now part of that is that independents can actually vote in the Republican primary. They can choose that Republican ballot. And that has a big sway on who wins the New Hampshire primary. It's very different than other states. So, that libertarian streak, his message, I think it's a little bit different this time because there's so many candidates. And that may get drowned out. But he's certainly working here. He's here today. And, we'll see. I think sometimes on his foreign policy, whether or not his foreign policy views will garner that kind of vote, it's questionable. I don't know. We'll wait to see.
Neil, this is John Bolton. With all of the candidates expected to be in on the Republican side, I think a lot of people are curious as to what some of the key Republican figures in the state will do. Who will John Sununu endorse? Scott Brown, Kelly Ayotte, people like that. Do you have any sense of where they're leaning or what effect it might have if they do come out for one of the Republican candidates?
Well, Ambassador, it's great to be on with you. It's a pleasure. I think the big fish in New Hampshire is Senator Kelly Ayotte. She is very popular, but remember, she's in cycle this time, so she most likely probably will not pick a candidate because, of course, when you pick a candidate, everybody else gets mad at you, and she needs those people. The Sununus have a huge name. Judd Gregg is a towering figure in New Hampshire. The question is what does an endorsement give you? Do people vote for you because of an endorsement? I think probably what it does is it gets you that attention that you need early on to say, don't forget about my candidacy. And with so many candidates, an endorsement can get you on that front page. And the more days that you're on that front page, the better it is for you to be garnering that interest and getting sort of into the front. Because as soon as that interest comes, just like building a snowball, it builds up over time. And people, it attracts attention.
Let me follow up a little bit here because, you mentioned Senator Kelly Ayotte, and if anyone knows of her outside of New Hampshire or people following things in Washington, my initial instinct is she seems joined at the hip with John McCain and Lindsey Graham. They're constantly, seemingly, working together on things. If Lindsey Graham jumps in, I would think that would be a no-brainer for her. Is that you don't think so?
No, I don't. I think that she is very close to a lot of these candidates. She serves in the Senate with people like Marco Rubio.
Well, yeah, a lot of her colleagues are going to be running. That's true.
Ted Cruz.
Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio, Rand Paul. Let me, just because we have so much we want to get to, you mentioned John Sununu not committing yet. My assumption is, given his loyalty to the Bush family, that he would be behind Jeb Bush. Is that not the conventional wisdom in New Hampshire?
Well, we haven't seen that yet. And I know that he visited with him, and that's as far as I know on that. Maybe that Jeb Bush says, you know what, I'm going to have a different campaign than my father, I'm going to have a different campaign than my brother, and optically that means that the people who are standing behind me on a podium are going to be different people. And I think that may be the way he's going this time. I think that He's only taken one trip into New Hampshire in the last 15 years. I was actually with him 15 years ago. He came up from Florida and passed out oranges for his brother's campaign. It was a very interesting day.
We'll see if he brings them to the Politics and Eggs breakfast that you will undoubtedly host for him. And I can testify that is a ritual there, and I enjoyed my time at the Politics and Eggs breakfast. But maybe we could switch to the Democratic side.
Wait a minute, not yet. Hold on a second. So Neil Levesque, you just said it's a rite of passage, Politics and Eggs. If you want to run for president, you got to do that event. Ambassador Bolton was there. Now, how did the people of New Hampshire like Ambassador Bolton, and what is the feeling on the ground for a potential Bolton candidacy?
You can be completely candid in this answer, of course.
He was very well received, and his background. When you have someone who stands up at a podium, they can say something like Ronald Reagan cut taxes, the usual Republican speech. But after about 5 minutes, you've got to get into the weeds a little bit, and it's good to have someone who can get up there and actually talk policy.
All right, now you may.
Okay, now let's get to Hillary Clinton. Down here, obviously, people watch Martin O'Malley, the former governor of Maryland, whose record was such that when he left office, he accomplished the incredible. He got a Republican elected as his successor. I know he's been up in New Hampshire. People think Hillary's inevitable on the Democratic side. What's your take, Neil, on where things stand on the Democrats' primary?
It's almost as if she's an incumbent president running for re-election in these primaries. I think her numbers are so strong that it would be tough. The other thing is to remember that any of these campaigns, unless you're a self-funder, they have to have some sort of a funding source, and you've got to write a check. And when you're a big Democratic donor and you're writing a check, you're for someone else, you're writing it against them. And I think that's going to be difficult for anyone. She may stumble, and then we may see an opening. But her roots in New Hampshire are very, very strong with the Shaheen organization, with other groups. I mean, there are activists from 20 years ago who have surgery, and they're in the hospital, and President Clinton is calling them to check in on them.
Jeez.
Well,
and let's
these are
not
people
forget,
who understand politics.
in 2008, after that drubbing that she suffered in Iowa, New Hampshire was the turnaround point for her. That saved her candidacy back then for a little while, at least.
Absolutely, and that was another campaign that Senator Shaheen, for every single person that she's endorsed for president in the primary, has actually won the primary, including Secretary Clinton.
All right. Well, listen, I have a feeling we will be checking in with you quite a bit between now and the New Hampshire primary. But thank you for joining us today, Neil Levesque of the New Hampshire Institute of Politics.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Neil. Thanks for coming on.